Awesome. Well, it's great to be here. As Vera said, I was here 2 years ago, and it is an honor to be back. I get to speak at quite a few events throughout the year, and coming back to Europe and speaking is always a joy. So I appreciate that. Today we're going to be kind of diving into an area that is becoming very vital for organizations because it seems like we keep finding additional escalation paths in ADCS. So we really need to evaluate whether or not our certificate services around Active Directory are actually secure or not. And so what we're going to do today is look at this really from the blue team perspective, right? I'm not a pen tester. I really try to help organizations secure their Active Directory environments. And recently I joined a company called GuidePoint Security, where they basically hired me to come and build their on-prem Active Directory security assessment program. Yep, they didn't have one before, which is pretty surprising. But obviously, so many organizations today are focusing on the cloud instead of their on-prem environment. So I've built out basically an assessment program. Part of that is some tools that I'm going to show you that I use. And then we're going to dive into the environment and kind of poke around to see exactly what we need to do to secure our certificate services. A little bit more about me. I just received my 21st MVP, which was pretty miraculous. So I've been around a while, 21 MVPs in 23 years. Started in Active Directory, then went to group policy, went back to Active Directory, and now I'm in kind of the limbo land of what they call enterprise mobility, which I don't know what that means, and security. I did work for a company from 2014 to 2020 where I was able to travel the world. So I'm very lucky to be able to go to over 35 countries over the last really 10 years and be able to speak throughout the world. The one thing that is the same no matter where you go, Active Directory. It is the same no matter where you go, anywhere in the world, the exact same set of problems. I have written a couple of books. I pulled the one in the background kind of out of the archive, which I'm sure no one has that book. 2003 Security for Windows. I don't even know if that existed, but there's a book on it. And then I did write the Group Policy Resource Kit, which some of you may have that particular book. And then I've written a variety of other books over the years as well. Anyway, this is my LinkedIn, email. Please use me as a resource. It's really kind of the mainstay of what I do in the community, trying to keep the community educated. And I try to post as much as possible on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn and we can share information. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to, first of all, kind of get some foundational concepts around ADCS. I'm going to assume that not everybody is a certificate services guru. I know that I'm not a certificate services guru, but we're going to talk about some of the ways that you need to actually get into the environment to fix some of these issues. Then we're going to go through the different escalation paths, talking about basically what the attacker is looking for and what we need to do from the blue team in order to prevent these types of escalations. We're going to talk about some free tools. We're going to talk about some strategies on how we can mitigate these particular escalations. And then I'll give you some finishing hardening recommendations. So ADCS normally has a 3-tier structure. Okay, you're going to have your root certificate, then you're going to have your enterprise CA, and then you're going to have an NT OS store, which really is a list of all the enterprise CAs. Okay, this is what the attackers are looking for, and certain escalation paths require this structure to be in place in order for them to be valid. So it is important to understand the structure in order to protect against some of the different escalation paths that we're going to see. Now, there are different types of certificates, right? When you install certificate server, you have certificate templates, and these certificate templates allow you to quickly create their certificates around what the template does. But there are different versions of these templates, and each version has a little bit different configuration associated with it. So if I jump into my environment here, and I go over to my certificate server, first of all, you'll see that if I come to my master list of certificates, you'll see the schema version there. And so we have 1, 2, and 3. And then when you actually copy one of them, it actually throws yet another schema in there as well. So you have a variety of different ways that these certificates are structured, which obviously is going to play a part in how you secure the template itself. Because it's normally the template that's actually causing the problems for these escalation paths. Now, if we just crack one of these open, let's say that I come into one that's version 1, you'll notice that it only has a couple of tabs, right? But when I go into another version, let's say that I go into a template that's version 3, which would be here. I have a multitude of tabs. So depending on the template, we're going to have a variety of ways that we're going to have to configure that template. And obviously, the more tabs, the more opportunity it is to mess it up, right? Which is really what's happening with regard to these escalation paths. So there are some also key configurations that always appear or usually appear with some of these escalation paths. So we have the enhanced key usage, the EKU. And the EKU, you can see, has a variety of different ways that it controls authentication, okay? So when you have some type of authentication certificate, the EKU is going to be configured in one of these ways. We also have issuance requirements, which goes all the way back to who actually is going to give approval for this. And this is yet another way that an escalation path can be utilized if the wrong issuance requirements are in place. And then we have different flags that are set, enroll as anyone, no password needed. So there's quite a few different areas that these particular certificates can get messed up. And what I'm finding is it is extremely difficult in order to go and secure your ADCS environment. I was talking with someone the other day and I flat out said, as a pen tester, have you ever seen a secure ADCS environment? And the answer was no. Just like I have never seen a secure Active Directory environment, right? I mean, almost every AD environment that I've come in contact with can usually be breached in less than 4 hours. All right, so we do have a little bit ahead of us in order to secure these things, but we can try. And that's exactly what I suggest, is at least we try, okay? Now, what I'm also finding is there's not one place that you go in order to secure your ADCS environment. Kind of like Active Directory, where you have all these different tools, and if you right-click here, you get a different menu than if you click over here. It's the exact same thing with ADCS. So let's kind of walk through some different areas that you're going to have to configure for these ADCS configurations. So first of all, here inside of Certificate Authority, you have these certificate templates, but notice when I go to these properties, there isn't much here, okay? So in order to configure the templates, you have to come into the master list of templates, and that's where we were just in to see the different certificates that are available in the different versions, okay? Also, if I come over here to my issued certificates, and you can see that I have some, I have yet different configurations that I can see here of the certificates that have been issued. If it's going to show me, there we go. So here you can see that I have my details and all the configurations are here. You can see the enhanced key usage, the EKU there. So this is the actual certificate, and this is what an attacker is going to be able to see if they're going to be able to take advantage of a certificate or not. Finally, another area where we have to go is our favorite. Let's see if I can type here. Oops. ADC edit. Okay? Yep, we're going to have to go into ADC edit. I know we're not in here very often, but you're going to have to go into some of these areas in order to make the configurations. So down here under our configuration partition, if we come to our services, then we have our public key, services, and right here we have our certificate templates. And if we come into a certificate template here, we're going to have yet another set of configurations. So it's kind of shotgunned around the different areas on how we're actually going to have to go in and secure these, all right? All right. Let's now take a look at some of these escalations, okay? Oh, you also are going to have to use PowerShell. Some of the configurations aren't in a GUI. So we're going to have to run PowerShell commands. Not everything is PowerShelled, so we may have a variety of other commands that we're going to have to run as well. This is where I feel the complexity comes in. When you find that you actually have an escalation, you're going to have to walk through these areas in order to configure it. So, escalation 1. And what you're going to see is the way that I've organized this is kind of listing what is required in place and then what is wrong with the template itself, okay? So these escalation paths, from what I've seen, aren't linear, right? They're not just X, Y, Z. Sometimes it's a variety of different configurations that can be exploited for each escalation path. And what we're going to do is we're going to focus on a couple of them that are very unique because it's kind of a subset of escalation paths. So this one in particular, if we use a tool like Bloodhound to go and look at this, we can actually see that in this environment, it has detected an escalation 1 path, okay? If you were to try to figure this out manually, I don't think you'd ever finish. The complexity of trying to calculate these escalation paths is pretty intense. So let's go look at the back end of what Bloodhound is actually looking at for us. So here, what I want to do first is I want to go look at the actual issue that it found. So if I come in here, right here is an escalation 1 that it found, and it's giving me all of the details of why it's an issue. Okay? This is exactly what it pulled from the certificate, and it is flagging these configurations that, of course, the attacker could then leverage and then get control in the environment. And of course, control, what they want is domain admin. Okay? So it's listing all of these details so I know exactly what it's configured to do. But what I really want to do is I want to go fix it. So what Bloodhound does is it actually lists for you step by step how to fix it, which is pretty exceptional. Okay? Of course, it may also somewhere in here tell you how to break it. But ideally, what we're going to focus on is the idea that this is giving me the step-by-step on exactly how to fix these escalations. So it starts down here, and it actually gives me kind of a list of questions of why this particular certificate is an issue. So it's decoding everything for me, and then in order to fix it, it's going to give me steps on exactly where to go in the environment to fix each of the different components. So you'll notice this one in particular is pointing me to the CA. This one here is pointing me still to the CA. I'm in the certificate templates here. It's going through and telling me that permissions are an issue, so I need to modify the permissions. And the permissions for different certificates vary slightly. So not all of the permissions across the certificates are the same, which is probably why sometimes they're misconfigured and they can be breached. Next, it comes down here. Oh, and it tells me, oh, if it's a schema version 1, do X. If it's a different version, do Y. It's pushing me into ADCS edit here, going into the configuration container, which is where I was, coming down here to the certificate. And then it starts giving me crazy stuff like this. If the current number is -5, adding 1 to -5 equals -4. There's no way you could figure this stuff out on your own, okay? There's absolutely no way. This is just far too detailed. But because I have the secret decoder ring, all I do is I follow the steps, and it's going to lead me down the path on exactly how to secure an escalation 1. Okay? Now, that's just escalation 1. Does anyone know how many escalations there are at this point? 16. Okay? And I'm sure there'll be more found at some point. Escalation 2, basically, very simple. The template has no issuance requirements, and the EKU is set to any purpose, so there's no EKU at all. So this one is actually quite simple in comparison. Escalation 3 is basically the enrollment agent template. And again, I have an issue with the issuance requirements and no enrollment agent restrictions. Escalation 4. I'm going to skip 5 for just a minute. And when we hit 6, you'll see that I have to go and configure this particular flag, which is not in a GUI. You actually have to run a command for it. So if I go back into Bloodhound here, go to my escalation 6 steps, it's a totally different world of what am I going to have to do to fix this. So not everything are in the templates, whether it be ADCS edit, the CA. I'm going to have to go and follow these steps in order to fix these configurations. All right, next. 7 is a pretty basic escalation. 8. This one, notice, is related to NTLM, right? Our favorite authentication protocol in Active Directory. Of course, there are really 3 levels of LAN manager. There's LAN manager, there's NTLM version 1, and there's NTLM version 2. Okay? So let's first of all go and see what this looks like. And instead of using Bloodhound, let's actually go look at a different tool, which this one is called Purple Knight. Purple Knight is basically, it's a free tool created by Simperis. So Semperis is one of the main companies that has tooling around Active Directory security. This tool is a standalone tool, runs against your Active Directory environment, your intra ID environment, automatically gathers the information, analyzes it for you, and then gives you a report. Okay? If you've never used some of these tools, I highly encourage you to do it. These tools are fantastic for giving us basically the vision of what we have and what we need to fix. So this one here, notice, is Escalation 8. Notice it's a totally different interface though compared to what we're getting in Bloodhound. This one is not giving us the full-blown details step-by-step on how to fix it. It's kind of giving us a little bit of direction, but not really. The remediation steps say, go out to this link. All right? So the tooling definitely gives us different views, different ideas on how we can fix things, but at least it is giving us the idea, hey, we have an escalation path, we need to go fix it. It's telling us where it is, which machine we need to go to and configure this. Escalation 10 is also related to NTLM. Now, with regard to NTLM, we really need to fix this, right? And I'm sure that the pen testers in here will say that most of the environments they get to, NTLM is a major issue around Active Directory, right? It's usually what I'm finding anyway, is it's like the very first thing the pen tester is going to go after is NTLM related issues. How easy is it to get rid of NTLM? Not easy at all, okay? Most of the time when I go into an organization, the very first question I ask them, tell me about your service accounts. And I ask, do you know all of your service accounts and where they are configured? And the answer to that is, no, I don't. So in order to get rid of NTLM, I have to know what is using NTLM, and I need to know where it is being configured. If organizations don't even know that, how can they even get to the point of configuring settings to get rid of it? Well, Microsoft has added a couple of settings to help us, right? So if I jump in here to group policy, and let's just crack open a GPO, come down here to my policies, Windows, security, local policies, security options. So Microsoft added quite a few settings down here, and you'll notice towards the bottom, all of these NTLM configurations. They added these in for two different levels of control. One is auditing, which basically you turn it on. There is a brand new NTLM event log where all of those events will go to. Basically saying, if you would have shut down NTLM, this is the packet that's showing the account, where it's coming from, and all the details of what would have been shut down. You can also be very granular here and shut down NTLM in certain parts of the environment. Now, imagine you're an organization that has 50, 75,000 endpoints. How easy is it to configure this? Not at all, okay? Now, I have stumbled upon a brand new tool. Well, it's not brand new. It's a newer tool. It's Silverfort, and I know I've mentioned it to a couple of people. What Silverfort does that's really unique compared to other organizations is it can get into the backward authentication protocols and control them. So first of all, Silverfork can find all of your service accounts that are running in the Windows environment. Now, how does it do that? Well, it uses a bunch of different analysis techniques to figure that out. One, most service accounts start with an SVC or SRV, right? So it's going to look for the name. Two, service accounts are very repetitive. And so what they look for is repetitive authentications, and they earmark those as service accounts. And they use some other techniques as well. But once you find a service account, they have something called virtual fencing. And the virtual fencing allows you to go to that account, configure point-to-point communications. So it's eliminating all other communications except for a source and a target. And then you can actually control which authentication protocol it uses. So it's some pretty amazing technology, especially for backwards compatibility if you need to get control of your service accounts and you want to reduce your attack surface. Because that's really the goal, is reducing that attack surface. And it's very difficult to do it through group policy. I mean, this is, some of the configuration, but this one right here is the mother of all configurations for LAN manager. We want to get to this bottom level here, right? Notice it says refuse LAN manager and NTLM. That is the only one that's going to secure our environment completely from LAN manager and NTLM, right? The other ones up above do not. Those are controlling more from the client, not the server. So read through these and make sure. You may have a configuration back at the office that you think is secure. I encourage you to double check what those meanings are, because they do not mean the same thing as what is written, okay? All right, so that's a little bit about NTLM. Number 9, this one is very interesting to read up on. Notice, the attacker can impersonate any principal in the entire force. The attacker can extract the NT hash of any user in the forest. And the attacker never needs to interact with the actual target user with this escalation. I read up on this. I give credit, obviously, to Spectre Ops, and this one in particular, Oliver Lyack, an amazing write-up on this one. And these are the details for escalation number 9. Because of the nature of what it gives you, this is a pretty lethal escalation path. Okay? Then we have escalation 5. Escalation 5 is extremely unique as well. It is so complicated that Spectre Ops put together these charts to figure out the different scenarios. And you'll notice that there's 7 scenarios just with this one escalation. The way it was described is this is basically a path to escalation 1. If any of these configurations are errant, the attacker can configure the setting to then use escalation 1. So it's a path to another escalation with all these permutations. So this is certainly not linear. This is extremely complicated to even figure out if you have the right makeup. And so then what Spectre Ops did is they created this diagram, which is all the possible permutations and all the routes that are possible with escalation 5. You can see here, this is extremely complicated, which when you look at these tools, right? If you look at Bloodhound or you look at what I was showing you with Purple Knight, the fact that these tools are able to analyze this and give you exactly what you need to go fix it is pretty remarkable. Then there's escalation 11 through 16, which most tools don't look at these yet. These are so new, they're still working on trying to calculate and analyze escalation 11 through 16. All right. So some free tools, right? There's Certify and Certify. There's a PowerShell module. But I really want to focus on these three tools for a distinct reason, okay? One is what they provide around escalations and also what they provide around overall general Active Directory security, right? We looked at Bloodhound. I was showing you the full-blown edition. There's also the community edition. But Bloodhound primarily is more for the red team, okay? It gives me information that I can use from the blue team, but Bloodhound is really more of a red team type tool compared to the other tools, okay? Semperis, Purple Knight, which what I showed you, is definitely a blue team tool. It is a guidance. It looks for indicators of exposure and gives you the guidance on how to actually fix them, and it gives you the background on why those are an issue. Most settings in Active Directory specifically that are exploitable cannot be fully secured because it's going to break something. A perfect example, right? I install SQL. I put a service account for SQL. As soon as I do that, that service account gets the service principal name, the SPN, filled out in order for it to do its job. If that account has privileges, that account can be breached probably in, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours, and you cannot stop it. It is impossible to stop that. So what a lot of these tools provide is visibility. You have to know where you're at risk. And then you sometimes have to agree with the risk and then put other guardrails around that, right? You throw your service accounts in a PAM, you configure it with maybe Silverfort or some other configurations. And then you monitor it and make sure that it's not being used in malicious ways. So these are some other things to do. Now, Semperis also has other tools. One that I want to mention is the rollback and forest recovery capabilities, okay? This is extremely important. There are some other companies that are coming through. I just responded to an email today about one of them. They added some AD recovery. It's nothing like what you get in Chaosoft and Semperis. Not even close. But what especially Chaosoft and Semperis provide is, you'll notice, the indicators of exposure, rollback, right? Rollback means someone errantly made, even down to an attribute level configuration, you hit a button, it rolls it back, and you're done. It's in the GUI. It's super simple. What if someone actually deletes an OU that has 150 users, 200 groups, and some computers? You right-click on it, and you roll everything back, and it's back ready to go. All the way to the forest level, okay? And then you get a tool like Chaosoft, and it provides provisioning as well. So each of them have their different nuances. And this is really what I help organizations with, is which tools to get based on what they need, what they have, and what they're trying to actually produce. So what can we do to help ourselves around ADCS escalations? First of all, run a tool. Run the free tools. Get a visibility on where you have issues. What you're going to notice is you're going to have to go and you're going to have to harden your templates, right? The CA configurations themselves have to be secured. And then you have network security controls as well. So it's not one area, it's a multitude of things that you have to go in order to secure this, right? We talked about NTLM authentications and how difficult alone that one setting is. But if you can get rid of NTLM, you get rid of a lot of issues that an attacker can breach in your environment. right? Another little tip, one way to eliminate NTLM, not version 2, but NTLM, is use a password greater than 14 characters. Because NTLM has a limitation of 14 characters. And all of you AD admins out there, right, in the interface, what is the biggest number you can put in for the password length? 14, or it used to be. They've changed that since. But the reason for that is backward compatibility with NTLM. So just make all of your users use past phrases. You don't have to eliminate NTLM, you're just breaking it, and then your service accounts, if they need it, just have a 14-character password, and now you're basically getting the same result, eliminating NTLM without having to put a hard setting in there through group policy. So, we talked about the architecture, we talked about the different escalation paths. I'm sure that especially the Spectre Ops is going to be coming out with the ability to detect 11 through 16 soon. We talked about mitigation strategies, some free tools, and some recommendations. Any questions?